Do you know that your intelligence isn't fixed and the practical steps to follow that will make learning way easier for you and make you a more successful student, regardless of how you are currently performing academically? I'm much better than I used to be as a student. Learning is less of a hassle for me and I do better in my exams. And I believe everyone has the ability to improve also. I believe you can improve, you can be much better than you currently are. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing 5 practical tips which are also scientifically proven that will help you unlock the inner genius in you. Hi, you're welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm currently a third-year medical student of the University of Ibadan, and on this channel, I make videos about medical school admission and personal development. So feel free to be a part of this community by clicking on the subscribe button. Also, like this video if you like it. Now, let's go into the 5 tips. Tip number 1 is to recheck your beliefs about yourself. What do you believe about yourself? What do you think about yourself? It has been known that your self-belief has a great impact on your actual academic performance. Let me give you an example. A student who believes he is incapable of passing an exam will usually not put in the necessary work and effort to actually pass the exam. And if the student fails this exam, that failure is going to reinforce the belief that he can't pass the exam in the first place, and this cycle continues. On the other hand, a student who has always passed a particular subject will, even if he's going to be facing a more complex or a more challenging exam of that same subject, he's going to believe that, okay, since I could pass the previous one, I just have to put in more work and effort, and it's easier for this student to pass this exam. In this video, I'm going to be challenging you to pick a particular subject you are not very good at and put in extra work, even a very tiny improvement. If you see a tiny improvement in that particular course or that particular subject, this is going to change your belief, and once you start doing well in that particular course, you're going to see that, oh, this is actually something I can do. I've personally experienced this before. Physics before was my most dreaded subject, and I've talked about this earlier on this channel. But when I was seeking admission into medical school, I knew I had to do very well in my physics, else I may not be able to get into medical school. But before that time, I usually always run away from physics. But when I knew I needed to do well in this exam, I put in extra effort and I had a great score in the 2 physics exam I wrote during my entry examination. That was my UTM and my post-TME. And the funny thing is that even when I proceeded in 100 level, my first year of medical school, when we had to do physics, I did 5 physics courses and I had A's in all of those courses. The previous success in physics reinforces the belief that, okay, you've done this before, you can do this again, and it makes me put in the necessary effort required to pass this exam. So again, challenge your self-belief about yourself concerning different subjects or concerning all your subjects generally. Now let's go to tip 2. Number 2 is to acknowledge the fact that effective studying and personal development is hard. If you've ever felt like studying is difficult, yes, you are right, because it is, it really is. Studying, just like many other things that help you develop or help you grow, are difficult. Think of staying in shape, think of saving money, think of building a business. All those things are quite difficult to do. They are definitely more fun things to do than all those things. But when you look at the long-term reward of those things, I think they are worthwhile. So acknowledging the fact that studying is difficult helps you prepare your mind for the process and help you actually stick with it. There are also ways to make study more fun, which is something I've talked about in the past and something I'm going to be talking more about in the future. But that doesn't really change the fact that effective studying is difficult. There's actually scientific evidence to back this up. I'm going to link one in the description if you are interested in checking it out. Number 3 is to stop comparing yourself with others. We are so unique and different from one another, and we all have different strengths and weaknesses. And the time and effort it requires for different individuals to learn the same material differs. It may take more time and effort for you to learn a material than it will take someone else to. That doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It could just mean this other person has more prior knowledge in that particular subject than you do. One interesting thing about our brain, about how we learn, is that the more you learn in a particular area, the easier for you to learn more in that particular area, if that makes sense. So my point is this: you are very unique, you are very different, and comparing yourself with others can just make you feel like, well, I'm not good anyways, and why put in effort when I'm not just built out to be able to learn these things. That is not true. You just need to pay attention to your own learning preference and learning style and see what works best for you, which leads us to the next tip. Tip number 4 is to learn effective study strategies. Figure out what works for you and stick with it. How the human brain functions and learn has been extensively researched, and we have a wealth of information on the most effective study strategies, which I encourage you to learn. I've been sharing and I will also be sharing all this on this channel, but I want you to know that the most effective study strategies are the one that works for you. You should experiment with strategies like spaced repetition, active recall, Feynman technique, interleaving. All these are actually scientifically backed techniques that work effectively. But you feel free. Don't be rigid with them. Don't be rigid and follow what everybody says word for word. Feel free to adapt this thing to your own particular style. Let me give an example. Rereading has been proven to be one of the most ineffective study strategies, but I still do that sometimes, depending on the material I'm learning, the time I have to learn that material, and the importance of the particular exam. So, learn to be flexible. I want you to pay more attention to learning about the human brain, how it works. I'm going to be doing more of that on this channel, but you can take your time. There's a lot of resources on the internet. You can find a lot of materials, and if you want to read a book, maybe you are free and you want to read a book, I'm going to recommend this book, Make It Stick. It was an eye opener for me on the field of learning and how the human brain works. So my point is for you to just learn as much and try to adapt this thing to your own personal preference. Tip number 5 is to work hard consistently. You need to work hard and you need to do it consistently to see a significant improvement in your academic performance. When you keep working hard, it becomes a lifestyle that it no longer seems to you like so much hard work. One way I've always made myself study consistently is by thinking of reward and punishment. I know anytime I need to study, I just remind myself of the reward that comes from the studying, and I also think of the punishment that also comes from not studying. The reward from studying is that when I go to class and lecturer asks a question or my friends are discussing anything, I'll not be blank out and I'll not feel stupid. And why don't I know what everybody knows? And also, eventually, it is to pass my exam very well and ultimately become a good doctor. And also, I could think of the punishments. One of the profound punishments is failing my exam. And when I just imagine how painful it would be to fail an exam, it just makes me go back to my study table and make me grind hard. So I believe I've been able to tell you some of the most important things to improve as a student. You need to do all these things consistently. And for you to do many of these things because they are difficult, I think it's important to have a reason for doing that. Have a reason that is genuine to you. Have something that is like driving you, a motivation that pushes you to do all these things. Because if you don't have a reason, it is difficult to do any of what I've said earlier. So that is the end of this video, and thank you for watching. Please like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you're not subscribed to this channel, and I'm going to see you next week Tuesday. Peace out.